Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Show Us Your Kit, the show where we have a look at old football kits and share football stories and look at memorabilia, etc. And as I've bailed him out quite a few times by being a last-minute guest on the 77 Club, I've been joined by Sam, the host of that said podcast. How are you doing there, Sam?
Not too bad. Episode 10. I wasn't invited on for the pilot for episode 1. That's disappointing.
It's a landmark episode. So
That's true, yeah. Hitting double figures. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I've done them all in the last 3 days as well, but it's going to be staggered out over the next couple of months as there is nothing else to talk about. What are you doing then in terms of content on the 77 Club at the moment?
We aren't really doing anything. Mostly social media stuff like, do you remember this player? And things like that. That's one of Harry's ideas. But otherwise, there's not much going on. We're not really the sort of outlet that will go along the lines of gossip. That's something we try to avoid. And there's not really much else to talk about. We had a season review that we did of the 2013-14 season. That was quite fun to sort of get everybody's stories from that season. Obviously a great season in League One. But as it turns out, we all just enjoyed getting drunk most of the time. So it's good to see that a lot has changed in those years since then. But no, some good stories, mostly alcohol fueled, but no, fantastic season. And go and check it out if you can.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I think it would be worth hearing some other seasons reviewed retrospectively, but I do fear they might be a little bit the same as you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
But well, first of all, I'd like to ask you, Sam, what's your earliest memories of being a Wolves fan? Then
I was quite late to the party. Really, I was brought up really as a Liverpool fan, but never really taking much of an interest in football. I was never really good at playing it. I think my dad used to take coaching, used to coach the kids at school. Yeah. And I think I was more interested in chasing butterflies or messing around than actually playing football, which I think maybe broke his heart a little bit because he was a very good footballer. But it's sort of, I got my first taste. I went with Bayliss, who was on the podcast, to Wolves versus Cardiff. It was in 2004-05 season. We lost 2-1. But I remember it being my first game of football I ever went to, and the atmosphere was incredible because I'd never felt anything. So I had actually nothing to compare it by. So it might have been terrible by all accounts. But my first proper taste of Molineux and fell in love with it straight away. And because I'm such a cheapskate and don't like spending any money, I remember the first thing I did was go back home and I made my own Wolves clock and various pictures by printing off logos, taking apart my clock at home, and making my own one out of all that stuff. And I remember vividly, and my mum and dad remind me of this quite a lot actually, was that when we didn't do well or we lost, all the memorabilia that I had created would be taken down off the wall because I was so angry with them. So the frustration stretches back pretty much to day one. But yeah, that's my earliest memories, is that first game, and haven't looked back since. The rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah.
And
now you travel all over Europe following them.
And now it's completely amazing. It's incredible. It's like something that I never envisaged even 12 months ago that we'd be going to Turin or Bratislava or Barcelona or wherever else we've been following them this season. And I hope it's not a complete waste of time. But we will see. Nothing will take away the memories, I think.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, so that was the main one. I don't think any away day will ever top that, obviously, apart from Gdansk when we go.
Oh man, I don't know if you had, but I certainly had. My flights are booked and they still haven't changed. So I might
you never know.
I might turn up to Birmingham Airport on the 26th of May and try and get to Poland, regardless. I can't remember what I was going to ask. I was going to ask you something else then about that Cardiff game, because I remember a Cardiff game around that time. I think it might have been the following season though, where the Cardiff fans sort of invaded the pitch at half time. Can you remember? Was it that game?
It wasn't that game, but I know which one you're talking about because I remember looking over to the Cardiff fans who must have been sat in Steve Bull, Billy Wright lower, and we were going, look at that Cardiff fans giving that policeman a sort of proper having a go at him, and then this policeman just went bang straight out on the floor, and that is one of the things I remember actually. I don't know why there was so much trouble that day.
Well, the story goes that apparently they refused to sell beer at half time to the away fans, and the Cardiff fans had all gone down to have a beer. They weren't allowed to have a beer, and they all came rushing out of the concourse, then into the into the seats, and people were pushed onto the over the wall and past that. But then they spent the whole second half then stood pretty much on the edge of the pitch. They weren't in the stand; they were out on the red concrete bit around the side of the Steve Bull. But it was a very peculiar game. But I don't really know what. I'm sure we won that game as well. But
I'd have been early teens, so I probably wouldn't have understood the frustration of not being able to get a beer at half time. But now I'm much older and slightly more raggedy, that I would probably be on their side actually with that.
Yeah, and then subsequently after that, they were banned from coming to Molineux the following season, but they left the whole away section without any Wolves fans in it, so it was a really weird atmosphere.
Yeah,
and I'm sure Cardiff won that game, so they scored.
Yeah,
and it was just silence in the ground. But anyway, let's move on to the first bit of the show. Then you've got to show us your favourite Wolves kit.
Now, it's a very recent one actually, and it is the one that is last season's white away kit. I love the white kits. The one that we had back in like the Andy Keogh days, which I think would have been championship season, maybe 2007 or something.
7-ish, like 7, 8.
Yeah, around that time. Chaucer one, and that was my favourite from back then. Obviously, this has brilliant memories for some reason, and not so much for obviously wearing it at Wembley, which was we don't like to talk about, so I won't. But no, I love the white kit. I love, and actually last season's home kit. When it came out last season, got a lot of stick, didn't it? Saying it was yellow, and I look back at now of all the highlights of last season. I don't know whether it was the games, obviously, the brilliant games that we won in that kit, but I definitely do prefer that. But for me, the white just edges it, and I think it's just got a bit of class to it. I don't think I just like it. Yeah, I think it's
quite a few people who've been on this now have picked the home version of that kit as their favourite kit. So
I can see why, definitely.
Yeah, but that white kit for me, I just can't look at it without having heartbreak. I know that it had a bit of redemption when we beat Watford.
Yes.
But there was a really interesting fact. I'm not sure if it might have been you lot on Twitter who posted it, but we hadn't won a Premier League game in a white kit for something like, I think it had been like 20 games or something. For Wolves, who don't play in white every season and don't play every away game in white. No. It was some mad stat that we hadn't won until that Watford game, where we got that bit of redemption. But
good stat.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, I'd like to say, Wembley was a brilliant day up until the 77th minute. So, I've got like the emotional side of that. I mean, have you watched the highlights back yet? Because I still can't.
See, I didn't have any problem with watching them immediately. I think I watched them the day after, and I still now, you don't think it's going to happen. Very similar to when I watched the highlights of the Cardiff game from the season before when they missed the 2 penalties. I never think John Ruddy's going to save that first penalty.
No.
and then with that, still when the Jimenez scores and he gets the mask on and stuff, I think great, brilliant, it's all going well. And then you think, why didn't Dendoncker just step it to close down that shot that first time? Why did Dendoncker lunge in against Troy Deeney that second time?
We'll never know. But no, it was. I think we said it. We sort of did the podcast after that, which I think was therapy for everybody involved and for anybody who listened to it as well. Yeah. And opening with this monologue that sort of ended with the cheesiest thing I think I've ever said, which was, "It's the hope that kills you, but it's the lack of it that is terminal." And I do stand by that. I think there are definitely going to be days where we'll get redemption for that. And obviously, we've almost already had it with that European place anyway with Watford, but there will be success and we will be there to see it. It just wasn't meant to be that day. And the fact they got spanked by City 6-0 in the final sort of gave you a little bit of solace.
Yeah, but we definitely would have beaten City because we
have
done it in every single game since.
Yes.
But the other thing about that game as well, I think it taught the fans a huge lesson, because particularly younger fans who have not been through the heartbreak of playoffs and failed attempts at promotion and relegation. If you've just been supporting Wolves as a 10-year-old, all you're going to know is success. So I think it's a good learning curve. And then one of the coaches, I'm not sure of his name, but it's the bald one with little round glasses. You'll know who I mean.
Penfold.
He spoke to the squad after the game, and he said it's similar to I can't remember. There's a famous, I think it might be Nelson Mandela, but it's not about how you get knocked down. It's about how you get up from this now, and that's what.
I think Chumbawamba did a similar thing in the 90s.
I was going to say Chumbawamba, but I was trying to be serious. But that's what inspired them to finish 7th. I don't think we'd have finished 7th if we'd have got to the final. If we'd have won that game 2-0, we'd have finished 10th. We'd have lost in the final, and this season wouldn't have been as great as it is or might be.
The way through.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen? Interestingly, what's your gut telling you?
I think a lot of people are missing football, and I'm one of those people. And I've watched various rewinds and think you should obviously know what's going to happen, so it's not the same, is it? But there's nothing more important than longevity in the human race, and getting football delivered for what is essentially money reasons is wrong to me. I'm quite happy to not watch any football until it is sorted, until we've got a vaccine. I don't think there will be meetings in public places until that happens. I don't think the pubs and restaurants will be opened in the same way that we used to until there's a vaccine, and you can't rush that. And, if I was a professional footballer, being told that I have to wear a mask, I have to take a test before every game, I wouldn't want to play. And, it's an entertainment sport, but this is bigger than football, and it should be bigger than money. But obviously the big decision makers are conscious of money and contracts and fulfilling games and that sort of thing. But I think it just proves how unsustainable football is in 2020, that, you can have a couple of months off and the whole thing caves in.
It's very fragile, but I think Wolves should be in a strong position financially, and hopefully all the players are fit and able as well afterwards. But and hopefully, I can't see why this season should not get completed either. All seasons should be given the chance to finish off, and then we can have one season cancelled, and that be next season rather than
and there's loads of comparisons to what is happening now to the war, and always going on about the war. Of how there was this split spirit and you keep calm and carry on. There was no football played in that 6-year period. And why should this be any different? Loads of pressure to get the 2021 season underway. And it's just like, write it off if it needs to be written off. Yeah. Call it the 29th season of the Premier League rather than the 2021 season. When it starts, then doesn't matter. We've had no football for a long period of time before. And to me, that it shouldn't be any different now.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Couldn't agree with you more. Right, let's going to move on to the next section then. So this is a non-Wolves shirt. Now, this is not the first non-football shirt, because Manny did provide a marathon shirt that he had worn for a bit of fundraising. But you have chosen, and I like it a lot, Sam. Got a lot of time for it. The England cricket shirt from, I'm going to guess 2005. But you can tell us the story.
Yes, well, I've obviously got it with me. My mum's taken a picture of it, like she's about to sell it on eBay. I hope she does. But no, that was the first one I bought. And I remember, that Ashes series made me fall in love with cricket, really. And from then on, I was playing club cricket, playing with my dad, playing with a couple of mates who are on the podcast, actually, notably Bayliss. And that crop of players really showed just how brilliant it was as a series for England to win, but also the quality in that Australia side was phenomenal. We talk about the Australia side now, sort of like Steve Smith and that lot, and also South Africa. But when you look at those names, you look at the pedigree in that side, it's a phenomenal side, and everything went England's way that Test series. Glenn McGrath treading on a ball in training, and coming out of that Edgbaston Test. That Edgbaston Test is obviously still sends shivers down the spine. But just how close it was, and on a knife edge. but yeah, a brilliant test series, and wearing that shirt, if I do a bit of training or if I ever do play and my knee doesn't fall off, that's definitely one that I pick. So yeah, it definitely holds a special place in my heart just because of that fantastic Ashes series.
Yeah, well, I already enjoyed cricket before that series. I remember because
before it's popular.
Yeah.
2005. Yeah.
I was the same with the Kings of Leon as well, but but then, but I do remember I remember sitting and watching that series and a number of games, almost every game, my heart would be like racing for hours on end because they would be so tense. Every game was close. Apart from the first test that Australia wiped the floor with England. But I'm going to make you jealous now because I had the best work experience ever because my work experience was the following summer in May at Edgbaston Cricket Club on the ground staff, during which England played a test match there against Sri Lanka. So I got to sit and watch 5 days of the test match and have Flintoff, Peterson, Cook, Strauss, all that team just walk in and out of the little shed that we were in as they walked to their nets. But one big regret that I have is that I think it was on my birthday, in fact, at the end of May, the England team were there having a net, but I had an RE short course exam and they were looking for anybody to come and bowl so
if there is a God. If there was, you would do
what I mean?
Studies. Amazing. You know what I mean? You could. That's one of those things where you go, why did I do that?
I know. I mean, that C in RE short course. What's that got me? Where has that got me now?
I mean, everything happens for a reason, so I guess.
I probably would have been
butterfly effect, maybe, but that's gutting,
heartbreaking.
And, were you? How did you bowl?
Well, I'm not much of a bowler anyway, but I can bowl little off breaks.
Little off breaks.
Yeah, well, now I'm a wicket keeper, but last season
you're probably better than Ashley Giles. So.
Oh, I don't know. The King of Spain. He's a lot better now. When you look back at clips of him, he was a much better bowler than they made him out to be at the time. But because Australia had Warne and we had Giles, there was no comparison really at all.
No, exactly. That's fair.
So as we talk about cricket as well, then let's talk about last summer. Your memories, first of all, of the World Cup final, and then the Headingley Test match, the two standout moments of the last year.
Oh, the World Cup, yeah, incredible. I'll start with the World Cup was, I think, a little bit different because there was England were the favourites, and it was, something that was almost in the bag, it seemed. But then I've never seen an England side that has the ability to collapse like that one does, and the amount of talent in it. But sometimes when you can go from 50 for no loss to 80 for 5, and you just think, because they're blockbuster players, aren't they? People like Ben Stokes, who was phenomenal through that entire tournament, and has been for England for a lot of time, especially since coming back from his fracas in Bristol a couple of years ago. I remember watching it and just getting very angry and frustrated, and why have they done this, why haven't they done that, and that roller coaster of emotion that I think that format takes you through. It's my favourite to watch one day cricket by a mile, even though obviously said about the tests and stuff, but for big shots, big hits, big catches as well, because obviously that comes with the territory of big hitting. It's brilliant to watch, and that World Cup final was edge of your seat stuff, and I don't think it'll ever be replicated. To go down to the final ball in the way it did in the Super Over, to little bits like the scoring 6 when the 4 came off Stokes' bat. And he didn't mean it, and the fact he's a New Zealander at heart and all that sort of thing is just added to it. And it was an incredible tournament, and absolutely fully deserved, I think, on balance, taking out Australia in the way that we did as well, the game before that. So
and the Headingley Test match as well, we were actually in Turin when that started. I'm not sure if you can remember.
It's a bit shady, I don't know why. I think there was something in the Estrella.
But I spent at least definitely the Friday and then a little bit of the Saturday before we flew back of just walking around Turin, listening to TMS, and listening to the collapse and stuff. And then I'm not sure
yeah.
if you know, but they replayed the whole Test match on Radio 5 Live Sports Extra recently.
Oh, right.
I
No,
listened to it again. So I've listened.
Well, it's funny because we were going through, because obviously we'd done the race to Turin where Jack Bayless and I had flown to Geneva, got the mountain bus to Milan, bullet train to Turin, and Harry and Seb in the car beat us by about 5 hours because we got cocky in Switzerland drinking and overslept. But I remember because we were like, well, we've got to get the car back to Wolverhampton, and Harry, Bayless and I were driving over the Alps, and Bayless's phone just kept pinging and pinging. He's like, another wicket, it's another wicket. I can't believe it's another wicket, because we obviously kept losing the signal, and then all his messages would come through and it'd just be this massive collapse, which made him incredibly angry because I was trying to sleep. And so it was one of those journeys back where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is collapsing like this. But obviously it didn't end in tears. So
no, that's right.
That's the main thing.
All's well that ends well. All right, let's move on to the next bit then. Your favourite Wolves clip, which I'm going to put on the screen now for you to explain why this guy, and it's not, I'm going to spoil it for you, this is not the first time that we've seen this on the podcast either, I'm afraid.
No,
Somebody else has also chosen Ebanks Blake's wonder goal.
I remember watching this. I was watching it on TV, actually, and I don't know why I wasn't going to the game, but I was watching it with my granddad, who is no longer with us. So, but it was the most he'd ever moved, I think, in years, because he lived next door. I was watching his house. He lived next door to an Albion fan, and when this goal went in, he was straight up out of his chair, banging on the walls, shouting at the Albion fan various profanities when that went in. And obviously, when Leroy Lita equalised later on in this game, there were pictures coming off the wall where we were, because the Albion fan was bouncing back, have some of that. And then obviously when Carl Henry scored the winner, it was back up again. But I think he'd a little bit run out of energy by then. But, that is a fantastic goal. And he was brilliant for us in that season, and obviously the next season after, which was the promotion season. So, yeah, it just holds a special place in my heart, that goal, because just being able to see someone who hasn't really moved very much in many years to almost shout down next door. So that's why that's special to me. But
amazing,
an incredible goal and a brilliant finish.
Yeah, well, one of the great games as well of that sort of decade as well, and the goal from Carl Henry gets overlooked as well. Not only is it a great goal, but the last.
But
minute,
Kevin Kyle did something.
Yeah, I was going to say that was what I was going to say. Yeah, similar to Marlon Harewood. Then the next year, these two weird players that come on loan for no reason. And like, why were they both these big lumps out wide whipping the ball in? What were they doing?
A big McCarthy style centre forward that is going to, bash some heads together, and that's what he did, and it was a brilliant cross, and I just wasn't expecting it from him, and the finish was even better. But
if only I'd have been there, I'd have loved it. Right, your next clip, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get the sound, but what we'll do is we'll leave the clip play, because I was worried that it wouldn't be beeped out.
Oh no, that makes it funnier.
So we'll leave the clip play, and then we'll talk about it in a minute, if I can just. Not as professional as you lot with your.
That's the beauty of audio.
I know. You can just pause. Here we go.
Half time in La Bombonera Stadium, and England trail Mexico by 2-0.
Have you heard what the crowd is shouting? Bastards and bastards and bastards and they shouldn't be shouting at me. It should be shouting at you. And do you know why? Because it's half time and we're 2-0 down to the Mexicans! Wrong with you! Get your fingers out! Where's your bottle gun? And come and pay attention when I'm talking to you! If you don't want to wear the shit off, there's thousands of kids out there who die to put that shit on! Back on the field! Show what you can do! Or off home on the plane! You got that?
England lose 4-0.
I know that clip so well that I had no audio then, but I knew exactly what he was saying. And, Bassett to... Oh, yeah. And then England lose 4-0. Brilliant. A great film. A fantastic football film. If there are any football fans that are out there that haven't seen it, please watch it. And even if you have seen it, watch it again because it's phenomenal.
Well, my dad hadn't seen that film, so for Christmas a couple of years ago, I bought it for me. We watched it together, and it has got some very, very good moments in it. But some of it's a little bit dated, but it's so good, so good.
And same for me, really. I would watch the TV series with my dad as well,
Yeah.
and I would be in fits of laughter every Thursday night or whatever when we actually had to wait for things and we couldn't binge it. Back in the day, and just they had it, some of it just for the time as well, just down to a T. And that halftime team talk is I don't know, it must be Neil Warnock inspired, but I can remember we used the clip on the podcast one time, which I think it was after we played Aston Villa, and it was the Steve Bruce team talk that we said it was. So any excuse to play it, really. So yeah, just I think the beeping, because you were conscious that the beeping there wasn't any, but that definitely makes it 100% adds to it. I think beeping will always be funnier than actual swearing. In TV shows, definitely. But yeah, that clip for me is one of, it's one of many in that film that I probably could have taken out. When he's dancing on the bar and Pele.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Or calling up Benson and Hedges because
Benson and Hedges on the. Where on this fag packet does it say Benson Hedges?
There on the front.
On the front.
Right, very good. Right, let's move on to the very final part of the show then, Sam. Unfortunately, you haven't. Well, I might have it.
I will give it to you. Yeah, I will. 100%.
Yeah. So tell us the story then behind your last.
So where was I living? I was living in deepest, darkest Devon at the time. I was living in Torquay. That's where my first job was, and we lived in a flat. Me and my friend. And downstairs from that flat was a very cosmic old man, where we used to have many conversations that were deep and meaningful at this time. So I was probably around 21, maybe 22 at the time. And I remember coming back from a night out with my girlfriend at the time. And this actually sounds really bad when I say it out loud, but she fell down the stairs, and it wasn't anything to do with me, because then I fell down the stairs because we were both so drunk at this point. I know it shocks you, Tom, that I would be drunk enough to do that. But after we'd both fallen down the stairs and trying to get up from this night out, got a knock on the door, banging down the door, and it was Al who lived downstairs, and we'd woken him up, and he just tirade of abuse. And I just stood there, sort of just taking it, because I knew it was fully deserved. But the next morning he came over and he apologized, and he said, "I'm really sorry. My blood sugar was low, and I just had to go, and you shouldn't have to go." I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's fine." He said, "Look, I want to do something for you. And I know you're a football fan, so accept the apology. I'm going to make something for you." And he was an artist, an incredible artist, former sign writer, just very, very, very talented man. And it took about, I think, 6 months, and it's this big, it must have been a 6 foot by 6 foot canvas, and he'd done like a Wolves logo with, I think it had "Out of Darkness Cometh Light" in the bottom. I was like, "Oh my God, that is amazing. It's just a huge thing." He's like, "No one else in the world is going to have one of these." And I was like, "Great piece of memorabilia." And then he flicked on a UV light, and it just lit everything up on it. So all the eyes and the outline and the writing as well. So that is one of my prize pieces of Wolves memorabilia, even though it is in no way official. But it is very individual. So I will have to get that over to you, because it's an impressive work of art.
It sounds very, very unique, and that's very unique. I like kind of things like that, like little drawings or bits of art that somebody has done. But why had he done that? Had he already prepared to give it to you, or what?
No, we had always sort of watched Wolves games and stuff whenever they were on TV and that sort of thing. And he sort of he didn't have a football team to follow, and he thought, "Oh, I may as well get into Wolves." And we'd have chats and conversations, and I'd tell him about the club, and then he'd learn and stuff. And then he obviously knew that it was a passion of mine to go and watch them, and I think that's just why he came up with the idea of doing it. But brilliant, 6 foot by 6 foot, absolutely massive thing. It took him, like I say, about 6 months, because he was very intricate, and once you've done it on canvas, it's very hard to correct mistakes. He wasn't drawing on an iPad, so yeah, it was taking up his living room for quite a long time, and I think he was sick of the sight of it by the time he finished it. So he's glad to give it to me. So rolled it up, and unfortunately, ever since I've just had nowhere to put it. Any girlfriends that I've lived with have categorically said no, I can't put that up, which is a shame because it is a wonderful piece of art, but apparently it doesn't go with the theme of most rooms.
Well, what you want to do is you want to get a little wolves room like me.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly
what
I need. Yeah, I need a man cave. That's what I need. So
exactly right. Well, thank you very much, Sam, for coming on and sharing your stories. Very entertaining, and hopefully, when things are back to normal and the 77 clubs going up and running, we'll be chatting more regularly.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me on. It's been actually really nice to talk about something that hasn't been coronavirus related.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that.
Now at the end.
Sorry, COVID-19.
Right. Thank you very much then, Sam. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Don't forget to check out the 77 Club, subscribe to this channel, check out this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Acast, anywhere else as well. And then I'll see you again in a couple of days for another episode. Thank you very much. Goodbye.